The Peaceful Haven director, Sarah Chen, stood at the observation deck of the Harmony Tower, watching the morning sun cast golden light across New Geneva's skyline. The city below bustled with activity as beings from dozens of worlds went about their daily lives. Tall, graceful Etherians, with their translucent skin, walked alongside stocky, four-armed Craxians. Street vendors sold exotic foods from every corner of the galaxy, while children of multiple species played together in the parks. For 150 years, Earth had maintained its status as the galaxy's premier neutral zone. No weapons beyond personal defense tools were permitted within the solar system. No military vessels could enter Earth's space without surrendering their armaments. At the orbital checkpoints, this had been humanity's gift to the galaxy, a place where even the most bitter enemies could meet safely to resolve their differences. Sarah adjusted her simple blue uniform, the standard dress for all Earth officials. Unlike other worlds that favored elaborate military decorations or ceremonial robes, Earth's representatives wore modest attire that symbolized their peaceful intentions. She had spent 20 years working her way up through the Neutrality Council, helping to mediate conflicts between species that had been fighting for centuries. Today would be different. Today, Earth would host the most important peace summit in galactic history. The Vorthok Confederation and the Hive Collective had agreed to end their 1,000-year war, and Earth had been chosen as the meeting place. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. If these negotiations succeeded, billions of lives would be saved. If they failed, the galaxy might tear itself apart in the largest conflict ever seen. Captain Marcus Webb was making his morning rounds aboard Orbital Peace Station Alpha when his communications officer, Lieutenant Susan Torres, called out from her station. The massive space station orbited Earth at the edge of the solar system, serving as the first checkpoint for all incoming vessels. Its design was deliberately non-threatening, all curves and soft edges, with no visible weapons systems. Captain, we have the Vorthok delegation approaching from Sector 7, Torres reported. Their flagship is requesting permission to dock. Marcus nodded, pulling up the visual display. The Vorthok ship was a massive beast of black metal and red lighting, designed to intimidate enemies. Its weapons systems had been powered down according to protocol, but Marcus could see the scars of countless battles along its hull. Were reptilian warriors who had built their civilization on conquest and honor. Their leader, Ambassador Jector, was said to be one of their greatest military minds. Grant them docking permission at Bay 7, Marcus ordered, and prepare the ceremonial welcome. Full honors. 30 minutes later, Marcus stood in the docking bay as the Vorthok delegation emerged from their shuttle. Ambassador Jector was an imposing figure, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with dark green scales and piercing yellow eyes. His retinue of advisors and guards followed in perfect formation, their ceremonial armor gleaming under the station's lights. "Welcome to Earth's domain, Ambassador Jector," Marcus said, offering the traditional gesture of open hands. "We are honored to host you during these historic negotiations." The Vorthok leader studied Marcus for a long moment before responding. "Captain Webb, your species has earned respect throughout the galaxy for your commitment to peace. We pray that your neutrality will help us find an end to this ancient conflict." As the Vorthok delegation boarded the transport to Earth's surface, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about this visit. The ambassador's words seemed sincere, but there was something in his eyes that suggested hidden depths. Perhaps it was just the weight of the moment, Marcus told himself. After all, Ending a 1,000-year war was no small matter. Down on Earth's surface, Dr. Alina Vasquez was preparing her laboratory for the arrival of the delegations. As the galaxy's leading expert on interspecies communication, she had been tasked with ensuring that cultural misunderstandings didn't derail the peace talks. Her facility in the university district was filled with artifacts, recordings, and research materials from hundreds of different worlds. Alina had dedicated her life to understanding how different species thought and communicated. She had learned that what seemed like an insult to one species might be a compliment to another. Her work had prevented dozens of minor conflicts from escalating into wars. Now, she would apply everything she had learned to the most important negotiations in galactic history. Her assistant, Dr. Michael Chang, burst into the laboratory with excitement. "Alina, you need to see this. The Hive Collective's advanced team has arrived, and they're unlike anything we've encountered before." Alina followed Michael to the observation room, where a group of insectoid beings moved with perfect coordination. The Hive Collective was a mystery to most of the galaxy. They rarely interacted with other species, preferring to remain within their own territory. When they did communicate, it was through a complex system of chemical signals and shared consciousness that few outsiders could understand. The leader of the advanced team, Commander Yila, was a striking figure. Her exoskeleton was a deep purple color, and her forearms moved with fluid grace. What made her unique was her ability to communicate telepathically with other species, a rare gift that had made her invaluable as a diplomat. Dr. Vasquez, Commander Yila's voice, echoed directly in Elena's mind. "We appreciate your efforts to understand our ways. The Hive has great respect for your work in preventing unnecessary conflicts." Alina smiled, feeling honored by the compliment. "We're grateful for your trust in choosing Earth as the site for these talks. Our only wish is to help both sides find common ground." As the day progressed, beings from across the galaxy gathered in New Geneva for the historic summit. The city's hotels were filled with reporters, observers, and delegates from neutral worlds. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Street performers entertained crowds with displays of alien music and dance. Children from the local schools had prepared welcome ceremonies in dozens of languages. The main negotiations would take place in the Hall of Harmony, a beautiful building constructed specifically for interspecies diplomacy. Its architecture blended elements from many different worlds, creating a space that felt welcoming to all visitors. The walls were covered with murals depicting scenes of peace and cooperation from throughout galactic history. As evening approached, Sarah Chen stood in the hall, reviewing the seating arrangements one final time. The Vorthok delegation would sit on the eastern side, facing the rising sun, a position of honor in their culture. The Hive representatives would occupy the western side, where the complex lighting system could create the specific spectrum of colors they preferred for important discussions. Director Chen, her aide, Jonathan Walsh, approached with a tablet full of updates. "Both delegations have confirmed their attendance for tomorrow's opening ceremony. The media has been allocated appropriate viewing areas, and security teams are in position." Sarah nodded, feeling satisfied with the preparations. Earth's security forces were trained in crowd control and emergency response, but they carried no weapons. Their role was to ensure order and assist visitors, not to fight battles. The planet's safety had always depended on its neutrality, not its military strength. As the sun set over New Geneva, casting long shadows across the city, Sarah felt a sense of pride in what humanity had accomplished. Earth had become a beacon of hope in a galaxy torn by conflict. Tomorrow, That hope might finally bring peace to two of the most powerful civilizations in known space. In the residential district, families of humans and aliens settled in for the evening. Children who had grown up together despite their different species shared stories about their homeworlds. Adults discussed the possibility of peace over dinner, their voices filled with optimism. The orbital stations continued their quiet watch over the peaceful world below. Captain Webb completed his final report of the day, noting the successful arrival of all delegations. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if 1,000 years of hatred could finally come to an end. But in the depths of space, beyond the range of Earth's sensors, other ships were moving. Ships that carried no diplomatic flags, no peaceful intentions. The trap that had been carefully prepared for decades was about to be sprung. Earth's long age of neutrality was about to end in fire and betrayal. The last thing Sarah Chen saw as she prepared for bed was the peaceful glow of the city lights below. Tomorrow, she believed, would mark the beginning of a new age of peace. She had no way of knowing that tomorrow would instead mark the beginning of humanity's greatest test. Asterisk. The first strike changes everything. The attack began at exactly 6:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time. Director Sarah Chen was reviewing her opening speech when the first explosion shook the Harmony Tower. The elegant building, symbol of Earth's peaceful mission, shuddered as plasma fire rained down from the sky. Through her office window, Sarah watched in horror as the Hall of Harmony erupted in flames. "This is impossible," she whispered, her hands pressed against the glass. "No weapons are allowed in our system." Her aide, Jonathan Walsh, burst through the door, his face pale with shock. "Director, we're under attack. Multiple ships are firing on civilian targets throughout the city. The orbital stations are trying to respond, but they're overwhelmed." Sarah's mind raced. Earth's defenses were designed for search and rescue operations, not military combat. The orbital stations had powerful shields and communication systems, but no weapons capable of fighting off a serious attack. For 150 years, they had relied on their neutrality as their only protection. Captain Marcus Webb was fighting for his life aboard Peace Station Alpha. The massive structure groaned under the impact of enemy fire as he struggled to coordinate a response. His communications officer, Lieutenant Susan Torres, was frantically trying to contact Earth's surface while emergency klaxons wailed throughout the station. "Captain, I'm reading at least 30 ships in attack formation," Torres reported, her voice strained. "They're using both Vorthok and Hive technology, but the signatures are all wrong. These aren't the same ships that docked yesterday." Marcus stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The attacking vessels bore the markings of both civilizations, but their formations were too coordinated, too perfect. The Vorthok and Hive had been enemies for 1,000 years. They couldn't possibly be working together. "Sir, incoming transmission from the lead attack ship," Torres announced. The main screen flickered to life, showing a figure that made Marcus's blood run cold. It was Ambassador Jektar, but he was no longer wearing the simple robes of a diplomat. Instead, he was clad in full military armor, his yellow eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "People of Earth," the Vorthok leader began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Your neutrality has been a useful fiction, but it ends today. For too long, you have interfered in the natural order of the galaxy. You have prevented the strong from claiming their rightful victories over the weak." Marcus felt his world crumbling around him. But the peace talks, You agreed to end the war. Jektar's laugh was cold and reptilian. There never was a war, Captain Webb. The Vorthok and Hive have been allies for over 50 years. We created the illusion of conflict to keep other species weak and divided while we prepared for this moment. The truth hit Marcus like a physical blow. Everything Earth had worked for, every peace treaty they had mediated, every conflict they had prevented, it had all been part of an elaborate deception. The galaxy's two most powerful civilizations had been playing a game of cosmic chess, using Earth as an unwitting pawn. Why, Marcus demanded, why reveal this now? Because you have served your purpose, Commander Yila's voice joined the transmission. Her mental presence feeling like ice in Marcus's mind. Earth has been our testing ground, our place to study the weaknesses of other species. Your peace negotiations gave us detailed information about every major civilization in the galaxy. Now we have what we need to conquer them all. The orbital station shuddered under another barrage of plasma fire. Marcus realized with growing horror that this wasn't just an attack. It was a systematic elimination of Earth's infrastructure. The attackers weren't trying to conquer the planet. They were trying to destroy it completely. Down on Earth's surface, Dr. Alina Vasquez was trapped in her laboratory as the university district burned around her. The building's emergency systems had sealed the doors automatically when the attack began, but she could hear the sounds of destruction getting closer. Her life's work, decades of research into interspecies communication, was being reduced to ash and rubble. Her assistant, Dr. Michael Chang, was working frantically at his computer terminal. Alina, I'm picking up communications between the attack ships. They're using a frequency that we've never encountered before. I think it's some kind of shared command network. Alina studied the data on Michael's screen, her scientific mind working even in the face of disaster. This is incredible. The Vorthok and Hive aren't just coordinating their attacks, they're sharing real-time tactical information. It's like they have a single, unified command structure. How is that possible? Michael asked. The Vorthok are individualistic warriors, and the Hive operates through collective consciousness. They're completely incompatible, unless they've found a way to bridge that gap, Alina realized. Michael, what if the war was never about territory or resources? What if it was about creating a new form of hybrid civilization? The implications were staggering. If the Vorthok and Hive had successfully merged their technologies and philosophies, they would be virtually unstoppable. They would have the individual creativity and aggression of the Vorthok combined with the collective efficiency and coordination of the Hive. As the building shook under another explosion, Alina made a decision that would change everything. She activated the laboratory's emergency broadcast system, sending her analysis to every surviving communication node on Earth and beyond. If humanity was going to survive, they needed to understand exactly what they were facing. In the underground bunkers beneath New Geneva, President Angela Rodriguez was assembling what remained of Earth's government. The elegant conference rooms and diplomatic chambers were gone, replaced by the stark functionality of emergency shelters. The faces around the table were grim as they absorbed the scope of the disaster. Casualty reports are still coming in, reported General Patricia Stone, who had been hastily promoted to head Earth's non-existent military. But initial estimates suggest we've lost over 2 million civilians in the first hour of the attack. President Rodriguez felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. She had been elected to lead a peaceful world, not to command a war effort. But the choice was being made for her by forces beyond her control. What are our options? She asked. General Stone consulted her tablet, her expression growing darker. Honestly, Madam President, we don't have many. Our orbital defenses are designed for rescue operations, not combat. Our ground forces are mainly security personnel. And emergency responders? We have no military industry, no weapons manufacturing, no strategic reserves. Then we need to create them, Rodriguez said firmly. How long do we have? Based on the attack pattern, I'd say the enemy is conducting a systematic elimination of our infrastructure, Stone replied. They're not trying to occupy the planet. They're trying to eliminate us as a potential threat. We have perhaps days before they finish the job. Lieutenant David Park, one of the few surviving communications officers from the orbital stations, looked up from his console. Madam President, I'm receiving signals from other worlds. The attack on Earth is just the beginning. Similar strikes are being reported across the galaxy. The room fell silent as the true scope of the conspiracy became clear. Earth hadn't been chosen as a target because of any threat they posed. They had been chosen because they were the galaxy's communication hub, the neutral ground where all species shared information. By eliminating Earth first, the Vorthakive Alliance had crippled the galaxy's ability to coordinate a response. Dr. James Mitchell, who had been appointed as Emergency Response Coordinator, stood up slowly. There's something else we need to consider. The enemy has been studying us for decades. They know our weaknesses, our technologies, our way of thinking. But we've been studying them too. All eyes turned to him as he continued. We've mediated their conflicts, analyzed their cultures, learned their languages. We have detailed records of their tactics, their technologies, their social structures. They may have deceived us about their alliance, but they couldn't hide everything. President Rodriguez felt a spark of hope. You're suggesting we can use our knowledge against them? I'm suggesting that humanity has one advantage they might not have counted on, Mitchell replied. We're adaptable. We've spent 150 years learning to work with every species in the galaxy. We know how to think like them, how to anticipate their moves. They've been preparing for this moment for 50 years, but they've been preparing to fight. The old Earth, the peaceful, neutral Earth. General Stone nodded slowly. They're not prepared to fight the Earth we're about to become. As the meeting continued, reports filtered in from around the globe. Survival teams were organizing in major cities. Engineers were working to convert civilian facilities into military production centers. Scientists were analyzing captured enemy technology. Most importantly, the human population was coming together in a way that hadn't been seen since the early days of space exploration. In the ruins of New Geneva, rescue workers pulled survivors from the rubble. Children who had played with alien friends just hours before were now helping to tend the wounded. Adults who had spent their lives promoting peace were learning to plan for war. The transformation was painful, but it was also remarkable. Asterisk. Sarah Chen stood in the ruins of the Harmony Tower, looking out over the devastated city. The building that had once symbolized Earth's peaceful mission was now a broken shell. Its beautiful architecture reduced to twisted metal and shattered stone. But as she watched, she saw something that gave her hope. Humans and aliens were working together in the rescue efforts. Etherian healers were treating human wounded while Craxian engineers helped clear debris. The survivors from the diplomatic community hadn't abandoned Earth in its hour of need. They had stayed to help. They made one mistake, Sarah said to Jonathan Walsh, who had somehow survived the initial attack. They assumed that destroying our neutrality would destroy our unity. But they don't understand what makes humanity special. What's that, Jonathan? asked. "We don't just adapt to survive," Sarah replied, her voice growing stronger. "We adapt to win. And we don't just learn from our enemies, we learn from our friends. Every species that ever trusted us, every alliance we ever helped forge, every peace we ever helped establish, all of that knowledge is still here." As the sun set over the ruins of New Geneva, the survivors began to organize. The age of Earth's neutrality was over, but the age of humanity's awakening had just begun. The galaxy had seen what humans could accomplish as peacemakers. Now it was about to discover what they could achieve as warriors. The first strike had changed everything, but it had also revealed something the enemy never expected. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers, it was their ability to unite others in common cause. The Vorthakiv Alliance had spent decades preparing to fight Earth as it was. They weren't prepared to fight Earth as it could become. The real war was just beginning. Asterisk.